Today, we are talking about the Roto Grip Optimum Idle. More after the jump. What is going on today? Let's talk idles. New Roto Grip Optimum Idle. Let's get right into this and not waste any time. Cover stock, Microtrax solid. All of the idles have had some version of a Microtrax cover stock. You will know this one from the recent gem. Icon Core with AI technology. The Icon Core has been a staple of the idle line throughout the years. Now wrapped within the AI technology. If you want to know more about that, visit stormbowling.com or check them out on social media. They got lots of good informational videos about that. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds about something like that, but there is more information out there if you are looking for it. Here is mine. We went with a little bit stronger pin than normal, 4 inches pin to pap, and let's just start looking at some shots. I've had a bit of a love and hate relationship with the idle line. There have been some that I absolutely loved dearly and some that just did not look good for me. So I was excited to put some holes in another one and see what's going on, especially with something with a cover stock as strong as this Microtrax Solid. At first, it seemed really smooth to me. And the more that I've thrown it, the more that I think it's slightly more versatile than I gave it credit for out of the gate. And it is still something that I have been using earlier on in blocks, but it is a nice complement to some of the stronger asymmetrical pieces that we have had come out a bit lately, like the Magic Gem and the Harsh Reality and Absolute Power, things like that. When I need something to be a little bit cleaner and maybe get through some check in the front, this has been a good option to go to. I do think it's probably best used with slightly more closed angles and earlier in blocks, because as you can see here, I made a big jump left, and as we move left, we open up our angles. We try to decrease the speed here to still get it to read properly, and there's either some combination of it not being strong enough and it not being quick enough to use those big angles, play in that very heavy oil part of the lane. And even when we get pretty slow, you can tell that it still gets to the friction and gives us that smooth motion, which we like, but it certainly is a motion that we're going to use more often early on in blocks. So I compared it to the Magic Gem because I wanted to use a ball that was probably in a similar area in my arsenal, and we didn't have any strong symmetric balls to compare to in the Roto Grip line. So I just went with this, and I think that we can see pretty quick here on these first few shots that I think that the Magic Gem is creating a little more friction. It's a little bit of a stronger ball. At some points, we might be tempted to think maybe it's quicker response, maybe it's making a sharper move off the dry down lane. But when you see these low angle shots and you see it start to transition, it still is making that smooth move that we're looking for. It's just creating more friction on the oil in the lane. So we made a little bit of a move, pretty small, to try to make up for that extra friction you'll see here after this shot. And it looked basically the same ball motion wise as the Optimum Idle did, just from probably like a 2-1 left. And I hate using numbers like that because I don't want you to think that, the balls are 2 boards apart or whatever. But like that was the move that I made here, and we get it to look pretty close shape-wise. Similarly to the Optimum Idle, when we made a big jump left and we tried to open up our angles, we still weren't getting that sharp enough move off of the friction at the end of the pattern. And even with this ball being stronger, creating more friction, we still weren't able to use it from that deeper part of the lane with these more wide open angles. You can see, especially again from the low angle, that it is really laboring to try to cover those boards from that part of the lane, even when we get really slow here on the second one. Now, what I'm not saying is that either of these is good or bad, because we don't really like to talk about things that way. They just are. What we are trying to say is that strategically, when are we going to be using the Optimum idle? And to some extent, when are we going to be using the Magic Gem? And for me, that's going to be in the early parts of blocks. I may start with an Optimum idle. I may start with a Magic Gem. I may start with a Harsh Reality. I may start with an Absolute Power, depending on, a lot of different variables. But we're going to want to use these balls early on when we have fresh back ends. We want smooth transition through the friction. When we want to keep our angles a little more closed, when we're trying to keep it more in front of us. And then as we get oil down the lane, as we get some hook in the front, then we're going to be making our transition to balls that have a little quicker response to the friction that will allow us to open up the angles as necessary if we need to, or anything like that. And I'm really happy to have a new option that I can use early in blocks that is not asymmetrical and still keep my angles closed down. And I can use it a little longer than I expected. You have to remember that what we're bowling on right now in this video is a used up house pattern from the evening before. So there's already been 3 games on this at least. I don't know what else happened after that. And I was still able to make it look really good out of the gate. So it is something that can be used for a little stretch of time, depending on the pattern, the environment, the format we're bowling in, whatever it might be. But it is certainly something that I'm looking to be using earlier on in those blocks. So where do we think it fits? At first, I thought it was going to be pretty high friction and really slow. And then I used it a little bit. I threw some games on it. I used it in some different environments. And then I realized that it probably doesn't fit at the very, very strong end of the spectrum with the gems, with the Eternity Pies, with the Harsh Realities. I don't think it creates quite as much friction as those. So I would say that from a usability standpoint, we're looking at medium-high friction, and response time characteristics, we're looking to use this in the medium-slow category. There are certainly balls that are going to have slower response to friction, and there are certainly balls that are going to be more usable later in blocks with a lot of oil down lane when our angles get open. But this one definitely fits near the early side of when it's going to come out of our bag comparatively. As usual, thank you guys for watching. These have been inconsistent. We're trying to get more in, and obviously want to thank the sponsors, Storm, Vice Inserts, Brangelo Lanes, where we film these, Bowl U, and Tim Friends from friendsphotography.com, who helps me video these and give us all the pictures and the angles that we can ask for. I'm going to be trying to also do some shorts on YouTube and Reels on Facebook, so that if you want a quick review of something in about a minute, then you can get that as well. So be on the lookout for those. I'm trying to get some more out here shortly. The DNA coil is on the list, the new Hustle is on the list, and the Road is on the list as well. So we'll try to get them to you as soon as we can. And thanks for watching.